This is a Selt reading practice test number 1. Aphantasia, a life without mental images. Close your eyes and imagine walking along a sandy beach and then gazing over the horizon as the sun rises. How clear is the image that springs to mind? Most people can readily conjure images inside their head, known as their mind's eye. But this year, scientists have described a condition, aphantasia, in which some people are unable to visualize mental images. Neil Kimure from Lancaster has always had a blind mind's eye. He knew he was different even in childhood. My stepfather, when I couldn't sleep, told me to count sheep, and he explained what he meant. I tried to do it and I couldn't, he says. I couldn't see any sheep jumping over fences. There was nothing to count. Our memories are often tied up in images. Think back to a wedding or first day at school. As a result, Neil admits, some aspects of his memory are terrible, but he is very good at remembering facts. And like others with aphantasia, he struggles to recognize faces. Yet, he does not see aphantasia as a disability, but simply as a different way of experiencing life. Mind's eye blind. Ironically, Neil now works in a bookshop, although he largely sticks to a non-fiction aisles. His condition begs the question, what is going on inside his pictureless mind? I ask him what happens when he tries to picture his fiancée. This is the hardest thing to describe. What happens in my head when I think about things, he says. When I think about my fiancée, there is no image, but I am definitely thinking about her. I know today she has her hair up at back. She's brunette, but I am not describing an image I am looking at. I am remembering features about her. That's the strangest thing, and maybe there is a source of some regret. The response from his mates is a very sympathetic. You are weird. But while Neil is very relaxed about his inability to picture things, it is often a cause of distress for others. One person who took part in a study into aphantasia said he had started to feel isolated and alone after discovering that other people could see images in their heads. Being unable to reminisce about his mother's years after her death led him being extremely distraught. The super visualizer. At the other end of the spectrum in children's book illustrator, Lauren Bird, whose work on the Fairy Tale Hairdresser series will be familiar to many 6-year-olds. Her career relies on the vivid images that leap into her mind's eye when she reads text from her author. When I met her in a box room studio in Manchester, she was working on a dramatic scene in the next book. The text describes a baby perilously climbing onto the chandelier. Straight away, I can visualize this grand glass chandelier in some sort of a French kind of ballroom. And the little baby just swinging off it in really heavy, thick curtains, she says. I think I have a strong imagination, so I can create the world and keep adding to it. So it gets sort of bigger and bigger in my mind, and the characters too, they sort of evolve. I couldn't really imagine what it takes like to not imagine. I think it must be a bit of a shame really. Not many people have mental imagery as vibrant as Lauren or as blank as Neil. They are two extremes of visualization. Adam Zeman, a professor of cognitive and behavioral neurology, wants to compare the lives and experiences of people with aphantasia and its polar opposite hyperphantasia. His team, based at the University of Exeter, coined the term aphantasia this year in a study in the journal Cortex. Prof. Zeman tells the BBC people who have contacted us say that they are really delighted that this has been recognized and has been given a name, because They have been trying to explain to people for years that there is this oddity that they have find hard to convey to others. How we imagine is clearly very subjective to one person's vivid scene, could be another's grainy picture. But Prof. Zeman is certain that aphantasia is real. People often report being able to dream in pictures. And there have been reported cases of people losing the ability to think in images after a brain injury. He is adamant that aphantasia is not a disorder, and he says it may affect up to 1 in 50 people, but he adds, I think it makes quite an important difference to their experience of life because many of us spend our lives in imagery hovering somewhere in mind's eye, which we inspect from time to time. It's a variability of human experience. That's it. Bye bye.